So a few hours after you watch this video, I will be at Portland State University, right? To see James Damore speak. There's going to be a panel and some other discussions, and apparently this has been a bit controversial. So if you haven't guessed already, I am in Portland, and today's video is going to preempt that, and I have a special guest.
Hello, my name is Andy Ngo. I am a graduate student at Portland State. I'm one of the student organizers of this event tomorrow, featuring James Damore, Helen Pluckrose, Heather Haying, and Dr. Bogosian. And I also work as a freelance journalist and column writer.
All right, so that's who that is, but you're the main organizer for the event.
Yes.
Along with a student group, I believe.
Yes, I'm with Free Thinkers of Portland State University. We're an open inquiry, free speech, skeptic student group.
Oh, okay. Okay, James Damore is controversial, and I think it's so crazy for me to say that, because when I read the memo, I understand people flipped out about it, but a bunch of scientists backed him up. I mean, I don't think the memo is as crazy as everyone's acting like it is. Certainly, news publications are misrepresenting it, so it seems kind of crazy to me that he's so controversial. But you did an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal talking about just how crazy it has been trying to organize this, because I don't know what the right way to say it is, but left-wing organizations, is that how you describe these groups that are in opposition to what you're doing?
I would say they're a coalition of far-left activist groups. Some of them are identify with Antifa, some identify just more broadly as socialists. There's a lot of socialist activism on campus. Some are anarchists. So it's that broad coalition with this, their cosmic enemy is white supremacy, patriarchy, and to many of them capitalism as well.
Yeah.
So that's, as I've learned more about some of the ideologies motivating some of these rather radical groups, I've come to understand why it's actually very strategic when they, in their oppositional material and propaganda that they put out, that they refer to people that they oppose as Nazis, baseless claims. In our case, of course, that's what we were accused of being, not just misogynists, but white supremacists, neo-Nazis.
So just to clarify, various far-left groups, or just activist groups, blanket statement I guess, have been attacking, I don't know if attacking is the right way, but they've been trying to discredit you. They've been, I guess, essentially attacking, in a certain sense, the event you're putting on, accusing you of being white supremacist, etc. Is that?
Yeah, so as I wrote in my Wall Street Journal column that was published today, obviously we knew it would be controversial to invite James Damore, but as a skeptic student group, we really wanted to move beyond the subjects and topics that most skeptics cover. For example, they'll talk about Bigfoot or pseudoscience. Those things are interesting, important to talk about, but some other things in the realm of science have become really politicized and dogmatic. And for example, one of that is research on sex differences.
Yeah.
And there's such a large and vast literature, scholarly literature for decades now, both in psychology and biology, on sex differences, and now all of a sudden it's become taboo to talk about. And we thought it would be important to bring somebody who expressed a different view at a large company, and was not just publicly humiliated for it, but fired. And for doing so, our group, as I said a moment ago, has been accused of really terrible things. I mean, to be accused of being sympathetic to white supremacy or Nazism, that's how you make somebody persona non grata on campus. And speaking from my own personal experience, that's what's happened to me. Are they trying to get you just banned from things? Just take away your rights at the university, or what happens after this? So a lot of the activists are actually involved in the student body government, so they have a lot of, I would say, social influence on campus. Of course, all of my actions fall within appropriate actions that don't violate student code of conduct, for example, so they can't get me on that. It's more so about that reputational smear, which I've learned now to be okay with being disliked, as long as what matters to me is upholding principles and aspiring to find truth.
So there's something interesting, because in the op-ed that you did, I saw that they made a claim that you didn't invite any opposition ideas or anything like that. So let me just say this. When I was at Occupy Wall Street, there were people who were producing media for the activist organization, which is Occupy Wall Street, who flat out said they were propagandists. They weren't shy about it. They were flat out saying they were producing slanted information with the goal of pushing their political narrative. That was their intent. So now when I see, what's happening with your event, with your op-ed, when they make these just these blatant lies, and hold on, let me backtrack, because that's a bit biased coming from my end. You claimed in your op-ed that you invited opposition speakers. Is that true?
Yes. It's not just a claim. We did it.
Yeah.
We have evidence of it. Tim, I've done a lot of protest coverage, as you have, not extensively as you, and I've seen you say in some of your commentary before that it's very, very hard to get people from the far left to actually be willing to state their views on record. That's been my experience as well. Of course, when it came to the Women's Studies Department, we reached out to all of the tenured and tenure-track scholars, the best of the best at Portland State on women's studies, and all of them rebuffed us. And so our invitation was genuine and honest. We really wanted them to be a part of this as a conversation, not as a debate, as a conversation.
So I was just in Seattle for a protest rally at the University of Washington. I was with Emily. Emily is on the side of the protesters, and she tried as hard as she could to get any of these people to do interviews, and was only able to get one Antifa person, so long as she didn't film their face. She had to film their shadow. On the other side, I couldn't get the people I was beating them off like, it's a terrible way to explain it, but I was just like, okay, yes, I can interview you, yes, please. Like, there were so many people on the right who wanted to talk, who want to express their ideas. It is the exact opposite of the left. You know what I mean? Like, the protesters will not talk to you. The rally attendees desperately want to talk to you. They want to explain what's going on. They want to get their ideas out. And so, for me, going back to the propaganda thing, we see, in my experience, this tends to be the case. But now they're putting out what appears to be, if I'm going to trust you, if I'm going to say you have said you've reached out to these people, if that's true, then they're lying, right? I mean, they're making the claims that you aren't doing this to make you look bad, or why are they doing this?
Well, that Women in STEM organization, they aren't necessarily, they're not connected to the Women's Studies Department. They're a local nonprofit group, so they're not lying in their claims. They're just incorrect. They wrote their statement without all the evidence, and not just that, they didn't even bother to get a statement from us. It was a very simple thing. So I wouldn't say it's a lie, but their information's incorrect. Now that I've placed on the record that actually we did reach out to try to find opposing viewpoints, hopefully will update their statement as far as today. They have not yet.
Well, I mean, the event is tomorrow. So for everybody watching this is the day before the event. So I know in the beginning I made it sound like the event's in a few hours, but that's just for you guys who are watching this. But we're actually filming this the night before. And so with less than around 24 hours till the event kicks off, they haven't updated their statement. And I mean, that's going to, do you expect protests? Because I imagine with this kind of language coming out, the accusations against you, the accusations against Damore, and even Brett Weinstein, it seems like there's a potential for protest. Would you think so?
Yes, well, I've already have scoured as best as I could online to try to get a sense of what opposition activism would look like for safety reasons, so I could relay if anything was potentially seems like it could be dangerous, could relay it to police. There is protests being planned. From what I saw, some of it was explicitly meant to be non-disruptive, like just showing up and wearing headphones, listening to music, ignoring. Some of the more radical type of protests, I don't have direct evidence that that's going to happen, but of course, radical groups have also gotten much more wise in that they don't mobilize people through public Facebook events anymore. That's not how they organize. can speak a little bit more to that because last year when we invited Dave Rubin and Christina Hofzommers and Peter Boghossian to speak on a panel about free speech on campus, that time the local chapter of Antifa, I guess, was a little bit more amateur what they were doing, so they organized through Facebook, and so that meant that we were able to, because information is public, kind of know every step of the way what they were planning and be able to work around that. They don't do that anymore. So it's hard to say what to expect tomorrow. There will be private bodyguards, there will be campus police there. We did receive some threats of violence. So
Anything you're taking seriously?
Not to the point of where the event has to be canceled. Of course, every threat I think we should take serious, especially since with how polarized and passionate people have become in their activism. You've documented extensively.
Oh yeah, we just saw fighting in Seattle.
Right, political violence. So I take all the threats seriously, and I forward them to the professionals, which would be the campus police, and from then they decide what to do.
So let's talk about you as an organizer, because these protesters, they have an idea of who James Damore is. They have an idea of who Brett Weinstein or Heather Heying might be. But when it comes to you, are you sympathetic, or do you agree with James Damore, Heather Heying, or Brett Weinstein? Is this about you wanting your ideas on campus?
Sharing my personal opinions here, I'm not necessarily speaking on behalf of the group in this particular answer. I am sympathetic to the views that have been expressed by the three people you just named. Let's talk about James Damore. When I first heard about James Damore was through the hysterical reporting in the media, and my initial reaction was, sounds like some jerk got busted for writing a really sexist rant, and it's good that people are pushing back. That was my initial reaction, based on the summaries that I read. And when I actually then looked at what he actually wrote a couple weeks later, I was really surprised. I was thinking, I wasn't sure if I actually was reading the correct document, because it was so, how it was characterized in the media was so different. And from what I read in his piece, I thought it was moderately, I thought it was well cited within the ideas of mainstream psychology, biology.
Well, let's get at one thing, for instance, because there are some scientists who have supported Damore, and there was some articles came out where they said that what he was saying is sound. There have been some people who have said no, it's outdated. But I think more to the point is that many outlets, in fact, I was just reading an article from Wired that made the claim that James Damore said women are not biologically fit, or not biologically as suited as men are. And I don't think that's the case. I mean, when I read it, I don't think he actually said women were inferior in any way or anything like that. He didn't say that, right?
No, he didn't say that. That's somebody's interpretation based on his writing, and I find it a rather, I would say it's a misinterpretation. Your readers should probably benefit from reading the document. It's only 10 pages long, and surprisingly...
And I gotta say, it's not even really 10 pages, because some of the pages are like outlines.
Correct, with graphs and all that. So, you know, what I've noticed is, unsurprisingly, a lot of the activists who are most opposed to us have not actually even read what James wrote. So,
well, look at what you said about the planned protest where they're going to wear headphones. I mean, that's, I hate to say it, but, you know, a lot of people always make the joke that the protesters are plugging their ears and just yelling because they don't actually want to hear what's happening. And if they're not going to read what James Damore wrote, and if there's an actual protest where they're actually going to cover their ears, it sounds like they don't actually know what they're protesting.
Yeah, that's actually, good observation about literally plugging your ears, right? I think protest, of course, like you, is very important, and something that we need to make sure that we protect as a society, as a contract from individual to individual. How people want to choose their dissent, as long as it's non-disruptive to other people, I think fine. You know, I think it's unfortunate that you are going to take up that seat with the intention so that you deny somebody who wants to hear that opportunity to be able to hear and engage. That's unfortunate to me, but at least it's non-disruptive. So I put that type of protest in a very different category than what I would say like thuggish behavior from some fringe groups that want to, for example, break into the building through the back and shut off power to the building.
I got to be honest. Even to a certain extent, I think disruption, to a certain degree, is good. You know, it's hard to know where that line is, right? There's no definitive point at which we can say this is or is not allowed. I mean, actually, I take that back. There are certain things we know absolutely are not allowed. I just mean that when it comes to protests, when it comes to chanting or yelling, at what point is it okay? At what point is it not okay? Because we've seen people who are more right-leaning try to ask questions and get thrown out because they're being told they're disruptive. And I'm like, well, hold on. Having a heated, back and forth with someone on stage, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, obviously, if it goes too long, sure. But we've seen instances where they will use that saying, oh, you're being disruptive to the event, and they'll throw somebody out. I think that's, it's hard to know where that line is, right? So some disruption is good, but shutting down an entire event is probably bad. And then I would just say, I don't know where the line is. I just think that there is a place for some kind of disruption. You know what I mean?
I've learned now that I've been involved in organizing several events that had brought in people who want to disrupt, that it's really difficult to find that line of when is it just expressing passionately your disagreements versus trying to really disrupt or shut down the event. Sometimes that line can be a little bit hard to find. For example, we had people who came in and they just, this was at an event last year where they just talked throughout the entire event in the back. Not enough to where the people in the front were distracted, but everybody towards the back was. That is an example of where it's hard to find the line. But the thing is also, as a public, our events are open to the public, open to the student body, and there's a very, very high threshold before campus police or administrators will actually get involved. It pretty much at Portland State, the policy is they will only remove somebody when the threat of physical violence is imminent. So
Makes sense.
Any other type of disruptions, we're kind of on our own as a student group, and we do not have the right to actually put our hands on anybody to take them out.
So I guess from there, we can start coming to a close. Do you think there will be any physical violence outside or in the event?
It's hard to say. I don't want to try to predict in this instance. We are certainly everybody involved. All our members are going to hold ourselves up to the highest standards of behavior. And I would hope that even in face of provocation in anything like that, anybody who cares about our group's mission holds himself to that high standard.
Well, any final thoughts?
Welcome back to Portland.
Yeah. I was actually just in Seattle like a week and a half ago. I was at Olympia actually talking with Brett Weinstein. So now I'm down in Portland. So I guess anything you want to mention, your Twitter or anything before we wrap up?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Mr. Andy Ngo. That's MRANDYNGO. I do a lot of freelance writing. I've been published in the Wall Street Journal, National Review Online, and I also contribute quite frequently to Quillette magazine. And I wanted to be able to thank you on camera for the work you do.
This is, look, I'm not gonna, I said this in, I think it was the Brett Weinstein interview. I was like, I think everybody knows that when I have a discussion with someone who's pro-free expression, that there's an obvious, I don't know what the right word is for it, but we can call it to a degree of bias, right? I'm going to assume that what you're telling me is true. I try to tone things back when I do the interviews, but this isn't some hard-hitting left versus right thing we're doing right here. This is me meeting with, you're an organizer, putting on this event. I'm coming here to cover it, and you guys know where I'm at. So Well, I'll just want to make sure I can say that so people don't think that there's going to be some like powerful neutrality going on right here, right? I never try to pretend like I'm overtly objective or anything, but I try to do a good job of being fair. And that's about all I can say. So thanks for coming down and talking. This has been great. Stay tuned, because from your perspective, in a few hours we will be at the event, and then our plan, you know, subject to change, but the plan so far is for us to actually have a discussion with James following the event. So we'll see what happens. If you want to follow me, I am on Twitter at Timcast. Stay tuned, and I will see you all tomorrow at 4.